Thank you. I thought I'd put my storytelling cardigan on today. Thought it'd be quite fitting for this. I'm not sure I can follow Ice's stories there, but the story I'm going to tell you is one that happened to me 18 years ago now, in August 2006, and it happened on a family holiday to the Isle of Gia, which is just off the coast of the Mull of Kintyre on the west coast of Scotland. Um, to set the scene, my future ex-wife Helena was a budding professional photographer at the time, and she was commissioned by a company called the Coburg Society, who look after all the some of the older buildings in Edinburgh, and they deal with the upkeep of them. They were approached by the people who lived on the Isle of Gia with the help of lottery funding and their own money that they raised themselves. They'd organised a buyout from the landowner, and they wanted to set up a website to advertise the island to bring tourists over, and they needed a photographer to do that. So Helena was commissioned to do this. Our payment at the time, it wasn't in cash or anything. We were just given free board for the weekend that we stayed there, beginning of August 2006. So we planned the trip. We had my son Gabriel come along with us. He was 9 months old at the time, and he was a bit of a quick learner. So even though he was only 9, he was cruising everywhere. He could crawl for Scotland. He had to keep an eye on him. He didn't like car journeys, so it was about a 5.5, 6 hour car journey, and he cried the entire way that we took to get there. Cried on the ferry across, and he cried for the minute drive from coming off the ferry to the ferryman's cottage, which is where we were being put up for the weekend. So to describe the ferryman's cottage, it's your typical kind of Scottish croft. It's not a fancy building. It had a ground and a first floor where the bedrooms were. The grounds that it was on were quite enclosed. There was a fence with hedges and a gate into the drive. So we drove the car off the ferry up to the ferryman's cottage, parked up, managed to get Gabriel fed, so he stopped crying. And I boiled up some tomato soup for us to have some lunch. And after Helena and I had eaten and Gabriel was asleep, she was emptying out the car and I was washing up the dishes in the kitchen. So when you walk into the ferryman's cottage, the staircase is straight ahead of you. The kitchen was to the right and the living room was to the left. If you walk up the stairs, they double back on themselves. And right at the top is the bathroom. And it had one of those old-fashioned half wooden, half frosted glass doors. To the left of that was the bedroom, and to the right of that was the spare bedroom that had a very old-looking cot in it, very solid cot, but it's quite dark stained wood. Looked like it was kind of Victorian style, but I'm not a cot expert, so I don't really know. So I was washing up, and I was washing the pot in the sink. The window was in front of us, and the door was just to my right, and it was a long, thin kitchen, and the toaster was just to my left. It was a couple of feet away from me, and I noticed and I heard a wee movement with the toaster. And the first thing that I thought was, this is Ghostbusters 2. I wonder if I can make the toaster dance. And the second thing I thought was, hang on a wee second, the toaster shouldn't be moving. So I had a look at it, I lifted it up, noticed that there was some water underneath, because I'm not the neatest when it comes to washing up. And there was some tension in the cable. So I thought the rational explanation is that it's just the tension. It's done something, and with the water underneath it slid the toaster along, and kind of thought nothing more of it. Not long after that, I was kind of knackered. I love a wee afternoon nap, and I thought after a 5.5, 6 hour drive, I would go for a wee nap. Gabriel was still asleep, so there wasn't any need for me to be awake and support Helena. So I went up, and I'm not the best sleeper, so I just kind of lay there for about an hour with my eyes closed, trying to get to sleep, and really being frustrated that I couldn't. I did hear Helena coming up the stairs to use the bathroom and then going back down the stairs, and it was about 20 minutes later that I went back down. And when I went down, Helena asked me what it was that I got up for, and I hadn't gone up, but it kind of clicked in my head that something had happened to her. So to give you a wee bit of background, Helena and I used to freak each other out all the time. there's a place in Edinburgh called the Hermitage of Braid. It's near Morningside, which is kind of to the south of the city, but it's in the middle of a residential area, and it's like a quarry, but it's a wooded area. It's like you're in the middle of nowhere, but in the middle of Edinburgh. And we went for a wee walk around about dusk time, and we both thought we saw a pair of legs, like wearing a pair of riding trousers. I think it was just the way that the light was shining through the leaves, bit of pareidolia. But she freaked and ran away, and I was left standing in the dark in the middle of the forest, freaking out also. So as soon as she said that, that immediately entered my head, and I thought she's seen something, so just play it down. And I told her that I just wanted to go and check the cot just to make sure that it was okay for Gabriel. I didn't really say anything more about that afterwards. As the day went on, we both independently decided that we wanted to sleep in the living room rather than sleep in the bedrooms up the stairs. The rationale was that the television is there. We can fall asleep while watching the telly. Gabriel could sleep with us. We're all in the same room. We don't have to worry about him crawling out the cot or crying all night. He's with us, and we can sort him out if there's any problems. But we both didn't really like the upstairs, so we didn't want any reason to go up there. So I built a barricade at the foot of the stairs. I took the parcel shelf out the car. We took the coffee table, turned it on its side. We got any spare pillows that we had, and we just created this barricade to stop Gabriel from crawling up the stairs. Like I said, he was a curious wee laddie, and he went everywhere that he could crawl. So we didn't want to go up the stairs, and we didn't want to go up after him. If anybody needed the toilet, the other person had to stand at the foot of the stairs with the light on and wait for them to come down. It was that kind of feeling. So the first night passed without incident. The second day was the day that she was supposed to go around and do the bulk of our photography. As is typical in Scotland, a lovely sunny day, a lovely summer's day, and it was very dark. It was howling wind, and it was chucking it down. But we tried our best. If you ever get a chance to go to Gia, I would recommend it. It's a wonderful place. It's got a couple of lovely beaches on it, a tiny wee island, but lovely people. I did discover there that you can't off-road a Volkswagen Golf when I tried to turn down a forestry track and put a hole in the car's oil sump. But one of the local farmers brought his tractor along, took the car to his farm and welded the oil sump for me. And he didn't take any payment for it. So that's the kind of people that are there. So the second day, we tried to take as many pictures as possible. We couldn't really because the lighting was so bad. It was almost like it was twilight. It was so dark. And again, it was time to go to bed. We'd gone to the hotel to get some food. We didn't really want to stay about in the cottage because it just didn't have a nice atmosphere to it. And we got back. We went to sleep. Nothing happened. We woke up in the morning. The ferry back was around about 11 o'clock, I think. So it was quite an early start for us. Plus, we had to get everything packed up and get Gabriel ready. So Helena and I were both backing up the car. And this is where you go to, in your head, you're going to think what terrible parents you two were. But after about 5-10 minutes, we kind of realized we couldn't see Gabriel. We couldn't hear Gabriel. And we didn't know where he'd gone. So I looked in the garden, the first place I thought he would be, because the door's open. So he's probably just crawled out. We looked behind the couches, everywhere that we could on the first floor. And then we realized that he wasn't on the first floor. He wasn't in the garden. He couldn't have gotten out of the garden. So he had to be up the stairs. And I have a very clear, vivid memory of moving the barricade that we'd created out the way to get up the stairs to find Gabriel. And when I walked up the stairs, my mind was racing. I'm going to see all sorts of things up there. Thankfully, I didn't. I just saw Gabriel sitting, playing in the middle of the main bedroom floor. But that was enough for me. I picked him up, took him down the stairs, said to Helena, I think we need to be quicker in packing up. We need to catch the ferry. And we did. It took us about 2 minutes to pack up after that. But the last thing that she had to do, she had to take pictures of the cottage as well as part of, for the website. She took 2 pictures. One of them is a straight-on view of the front of the cottage, and you can see in the bathroom, although we double-checked that we didn't leave any lights on, there is a light coming from the bathroom. It's not from the bathroom light, but it's in the bathroom. And the second picture was a picture of an angle looking at the porch, and you can see in the glass, looking round, what looks like a young boy looking back at us. You can't really see any features. You just get the impression that it was a young boy. The weirdest thing was the silhouette was like an aura. And the only way that I can describe it is that sort of iridescent effect when you drip oil into water, that shimmering type rainbow effect. I've got a really clear memory. I was looking through the pictures on my computer when we came to that, and Helena had her hand on my shoulder, and she, I can remember the grip tightening on my shoulder as we saw this picture, because it looked like there was somebody standing there who was effectively glowing. The unfortunate thing was this was 2006, before I had like Facebook in the cloud, and I had a very, very old desktop that my mum had used for her business when she worked in the 90s, and it packed in a couple of years after that, so all the pictures were lost. But I'll never forget looking at that image of the boy peering round and looking back at us. Helena, her surname is McGilp, and her family's from the Loch Gilphead area, which is roughly the area that the Mull of Kintyre is. And she has an auntie that fancied herself as a bit of a local historian. And I haven't been able to verify this. I can't find anything online about this. But the story is that somebody was murdered in the ferryman's cottage in either the 50s or the 60s, which could explain what happened to us. But that's my story.